أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بفضل الله بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الحمد لله والحمد حقه كما يستحقه حمدا كثيرا. الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. اللهم لعن أول ظالم ظلم حق محمد وآل محمد وآخر تابع له على ذلك. اللهم لعن العصابة التي جاهدت الحسين وشايعت وبايعت وتابعت على قتله. اللهم لعنهم جميعا. ثم الصلاة والسلام على خير خلق الله أجمعين محمد. وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين واللعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم أجمعين إلى قيام يوم الدين. Once again, I would like to say, may Allah reward you greatly for your attendance, and may Allah increase in your rewards, and may Allah save you in this world and the next from His chastisement. And inshallah, Allah uses you as wujaha del Hussein. There are ways that guide people through Hussein, and it's used through you. ببركة الصلاة على محمد وآل محمد. We began last night obviously in continuation of what we were discussing, but we said وَإِذْ قَالَ لُقْمَانَ لِإِبْنِهِ وَهُوَ يَعِظُهُ. Now what was this maw'idha that he gave his son? Remember we mentioned there was two types. One was one that revived something that was concealed or reinvigorated something or aroused something, and the other was a construction exhortation or advice, the instructions to construct someone or build someone. So how did Luqman build his son? He begins first by saying Ya Bunay. Every part of the Quran, the intricacies of the Quran are very important. That even when we talk about wudu, وَامْسَحُوا بِرُؤُوسِكُمْ, okay? That ba before wipe, and it says بِرُؤُوسِكُمْ. That ba before the ru'us, there is a jurisprudential ruling that's extrapolated from that. That ba means ba'd, a part. And from that we gain that it's that front part of the top of your head that you actually wipe. Just from a letter. So every part of the Quran is that intricate. It's that specific that we have to look at. So when Luqman says, Ya Bunay, this is the first part where Allah educates us on how to instruct our children. When you talk to your child and you say, oh, Ya Kada, you swear to them, or you speak in that manner, the child's not going to listen, because children, believe it or not, are human beings. They have feelings. Sometimes we don't realize that. Sometimes we say something and then we see someone else got affected and we realize another person's a human like me. They get hurt. Children are like that. Children get hurt. I know I'm being sarcastic, but this is the way it is. Sometimes we talk to our children, we look at them as if they don't feel anything, but children get affected. And when you speak nicely to the child, they're more likely to listen to the instruction. Taban, some children you need to up the tempo with them, but this comes gradually as you instruct them. But we're talking initially. He says to him, Ya Bunay. Ya Bunay is like when you miniaturize a word, So rather than say, oh my son, is miniature. Rather than say Yabni, he says Ya Bunay. It's like miniaturizing. When you call a garden or the paradise, we call it al-Jannah. Generally, in the backyard, Lebanese, we call it what? Jnaini or Junaina. It's a miniaturized garden. Well, Jannah is the garden, Junaina is the miniaturized. So he's speaking in a delicate manner to begin with. Then he begins the maw'adha. Because he's speaking in this manner, he can then instruct him on how to live. He begins by breaking up his instructions into 4 parts. Allah Azza wa Jal breaks them in the Quran. Firstly, he says to his son, لا تشرك بالله. إن الشرك لظلم عظيم. The first thing, which is the most essential thing in teaching your children, is to have them know that everything is exclusive to Allah Azza wa Jal. All praises to Allah, all gratitudes to Allah. Everything is in Allah's hands, because this is where they'll gain success in this world and in the next. They'll gain success into this world because they won't be too preoccupied with worrying about this world. You know, because if you sit there and watch the news and they tell you electricity is going to go up, interest rates are going to go up, you know, people are becoming homeless, people are becoming jobless, all these problems, whose problems are they? A lot of people think they're our problems. They're not your problems. There's a kafir. There's someone that said, I will look after all this. Allah Azza wa Jal says, we are the ones that sustain you. Allah Azza wa Jal sustains me. Allah Azza wa Jal sustains you. So these problems are not your problems, they're Allah's problems. Allah deals with them. So when you allow your child to realize this, your child has a positive outlook on the future. Your child doesn't sit there and worry, how am I going to live? How am I going to survive? It's in God's hands. Basita, everything will work. Everything will move along. Right from the beginning, you raise them to believe this. Inna shirka la dhulmun azim. That for you to have shirk, what is shirk? Just to be, for people to understand, shirk is any time I associate with Allah. In anything. Any form of shirk is where I associate with Allah. Where I say, Allah says this, but I believe that. Where someone tells you, Allah says this, but you say, no, I'm going to follow that. This is a form of shirk. Because I have associated someone with Allah to have over my life. Taban, there's things where Allah Azza wa Jal leaves affairs in your hands. It's up to you, you can do this. There's an amr that's mubah. Even some things Allah says that we look at that are mustahab and things that are makruh. Even there, they're in your hands. Allah Azza wa Jal will not punish you if you do a makruh. And He will not punish you for leaving out on a mustahab. But then there are the boundaries of Allah. And these boundaries are the things that have to do with wajib and haram. Tilka hududullah. These are the boundaries of Allah. So the second you a'tidi, the second that you transgress and you step over that line, this is where you have moved away from Allah Azza wa Jal. So this is the first thing that he warns him with. The second thing, which is very important, that has to do with also the usul. When we speak about the usul and the fundamentals, we talk about two main things the prophets came with. Two main things that have been uniform from Adam until the day of judgment. And they are what? Belief in God, belief in Allah, and accountability. They're the two main things. They're the focus that every prophet came with. That you have to believe in Allah and there's a day of accountability. Luqman, he says to his son, Ya bunayya, innaha in taku mithqala habbatin min khardal. Firstly, he says to him, if it is what? The weight of a mustard seed. Mustard seed is very small. He says, anything that you do, if it is a weight of a mustard seed, he says, fatakun fi sakhra. And it's the weight of a mustard seed, your action, and it's inside what? A stone, inside a rock. He says, aw fis samawat, or even in the heavens, okay? Even if it's up there in the heavens, it's concealed, it's hidden away. Aw fil ard, Doesn't matter where it is. He says, يَأْتِي بِهَا اللَّهِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَطِيفٌ خَبِيرٌ. That Allah Azza wa Jal, if any action you do, even if it's the weight of a mustard seed, even if it's inside a rock, and no matter how much you've concealed it, how much have you concealed the action? They say a story about Nabi Yusuf alayhi salam, that when Nabi Yaqub wanted to show the difference between Yusuf and his brothers, I've never actually read the narration, but I've heard it on the Manabir. And it's pretty valid with the story that they are each given a pigeon and a knife. And each of the sons, and they are told to kill the pigeon somewhere where no one can see them. Nothing can see them. And all the sons come back with a dead pigeon except Yusuf. And Yaqub says to his sons, he says to Yusuf, he says, why haven't you killed your pigeon? He said, I could not find a place where Allah does not see me. Everywhere Allah sees everything. And this is why at the end of the verse he says, Inna Allah latifun khabir. Latifun, when we talk about lutf, sometimes lutf has got to do with generosities or kindnesses or grace. But lutf here is with regard to subtleties. Allah knows the subtleties. You know sometimes when I make a comment to someone and I mean something else, Allah knows what I mean. To the point, يَعْلَمُ خَائِنَةِ الْأَعْيُنِ. خَائِنَةِ الْأَعْيُنِ, He knows when He knows what? You know when you are walking and your peripheral vision is looking at something else. You know those people that wear their sunnies that they can perv as they're walking through the streets. Allah knows what they're doing. يَعْلَمُ خَائِنَةِ الْأَعْيُنِ. Even when they're looking straight but they're actually looking at something. Allah knows this. وَمَا تُخْفِي الصُّدُورِ. Whatever is concealed. You know sometimes when you do something, you know when they say fear the Greeks when bearing gifts. You know the story with the Trojan horse. You know sometimes I'm giving someone a gift but I have an agenda. Sometimes I'm doing something but I have an agenda. Allah knows this. So this is what He's telling His son. You know, as the hadith where He says that purify your actions. Okay? فَإِنَّ النَّاقِدَ بَصِيرٌ. That the one that will look over your actions, the one that when we say the one that will actually be looking at the actions and searching the actions and investigating the actions is vigilant, that he's able to see. Allah cannot be tricked. Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen salawatullahi alayhi says, Inna Allah la yakhda'u an jannatih wa la tanalu mardatahu illa bita'atih. That Allah will not be tricked into taking you into paradise. So أخلص العمل, that was the hadith. أخلص العمل فإن الناقد بصير. أخلص العمل. Make sure that your actions are pure. That there is devotion in your actions. You're doing it قربة إلى الله تعالى. Have a pure intention when you work. That if I want to do something, do it and be straightforward. Even to the point with everything, there's one hadith that's present in the Dhunub al-Kabira. وسيد Dastaghaib rahmatullah alayh, in the Dhunub al-Kabira, he says the greatest sins. He says that Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam is standing at the door talking to a man, and his son Ismail is with him. And then he says to the man, Assalamu alaikum, and he enters his house. And he leaves him. And Ismail says to his father, he says, oh father, wouldn't it have been better if you said Fadl, invited him in? And the Imam said, I do not want this man to enter my house. And I do not want to be of those whose tongue disobeys their heart. And Sayyid Dastaghaib says, this is hypocrisy. When I say to someone, Tfaddal, but I don't want him to enter my house. I don't want this person. No, I just don't say Tfaddal. I need to be straightforward. Not sit there and pretend when you tell someone, Wallah, I love you. You know, sometimes someone says to you that they like you. You shouldn't pretend. You shouldn't pretend. Say, yeah, I like you also. Say, inshallah, Allah, ahabbak Allah, or something like that. Or even to the point where Amir al-Mu'mineen was straightforward. Where the man came up to him and said, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, inni uhibbuk. And the Imam said, Kadhibt. Straight out, you read the narration, it says, Kadhibt, you are lying. And then he repeated it and said, Wallahi inni uhib. The Imam says, that you have lied. He says, Kadhibt again. He says, you are lying. That you are lying. And then the man smiles, and then he said, how do you know that I'm not saying the truth? He admits to it. He concedes to it. He says, because on the day when the people called out Bala, that's why, when we say about the love of Imam Hussein, it's deep-rooted. It's so deep-rooted, the love of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein within our hearts, that's not something people can take out. Regardless, it can't be removed. A mu'min's a mu'min. He has this love, it's there, it can't be removed. So the Imam said, when the people said Bala and turned, I recalled that day, and you weren't one of those people. You weren't one of those that accepted my wilayah on that time. You're not going to accept it now. You turned away. Bil asas, from the very origin. So I need to have my actions to be purified. And I need to believe at all times that Allah is truly watching me. I need to believe this. If I don't believe this, I won't have these purified actions. And this is what he's telling his son. Believe that Allah is truly watching you. When that story that the Imam al-Baqir, salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi, he says about a woman that is in need. It's a long story, but I'm just going to cut to get the part of it. And she sees a man, and he's got a home, and she says, I need to eat, and I'm lost. And then this man says, I will give you, alaykum salam, what you want, but I want something in return. She refuses at first, but then her hunger overtakes her, so she accepts. When he comes to her, as he moves closer to her to touch her, he looks at her eyes and he can see fear in her eyes. He says, what's wrong? She says, they're watching us. And he says, they're watching us. He gets up, looks around, sees nobody. So he moves closer to touch her again, and then he can see she's about to die. Her eyes are about to come out of her face. He says, what's wrong? She says, they're watching us. So he opens the door, goes around, looks around. He says, there's nobody. Who's watching us? She says, Allah and His angels. So he gets up and he starts to weep. He said, this is what she's worried about. So at that point he repents, he gives her what she wants, and then he leaves her to the house and moves on to find his religion. To know that Allah is watching is what changes people. It turns them towards a path that turns them from this belief. And this is how the child has to be raised, that you shouldn't worry about what people are saying, but what Allah sees. This is the major point. The next point that he teaches him is the furu' of the religion. He says, Ya bunayya, aqim as-salata, wa'mur bil-ma'ruf wanha 'anil munkar. This is your religion, basically. Make the child know the importance of salah. How important salah is. Let the child know that salat amud ad-din. In qubilat, qubila ma siwah, wa in ruddat, rudda ma siwah. That the salah is the pillar of your religion. If your salah is acceptable, all your actions are acceptable. If your salah is rejected, all your actions are rejected. They need to know the importance, because you have an appointment with Allah Azza wa Jal. You have an appointment to pray. So salat comes first. When people tell you you can't, this is what I can't believe. People sometimes tell you that I can't pray at work. This isn't true. This is absolutely not true. Firstly, if this job is so staunch that they don't want you to pray, find another job. Don't think your sustenance is with this person. If they're that staunch, that they don't want to let you pray. The importance of the prayers, I have to be able to tell my work, I need to pray, because the sustenance comes from prayers. The child needs to know the importance of prayers. The child needs to know gratitude. After that, he mentions Amr bil Ma'ruf and Nahi al Munkar, something the child needs to know. that when he sees another child doing something wrong, to stop them, to stop others from doing wrong, not be indifferent. You know something? I watched an event once, a video, that this was several years ago, about 10 years ago. This guy got up when John Kerry was running for presidency. I think John Kerry was running for presidency against George W. Bush on his second term. I think that's when he was, yeah, because he was a Democrat. So when he got up and he was speaking, a man got up to ask a question. John Kerry didn't like the question and he just turned away like this, and the security came in. They grabbed the man and the man said, okay, I'll leave. I was just asking a question. They don't stop there. They get out, they pull the taser and they start to taser him. All these students who are supposed to be, students where our revolution started. All these students remain seated and no one does nothing about it. No one prevents this from happening. When someone gets pulled out in a crowd, if I haven't raised my children to be people are defenders of truth, this is how this person gets pulled out. This is how this person gets taken. Imam Hussein alayhi salam was massacred because none of these people dared to stand out and say, what are you doing? There was not a man amongst them to stop them. Even Sayyidah Zainab salawatullahi alayha came out and said, Ama fiikum Muslim. Is there not a Muslim amongst you? Not one of you is a Muslim to prevent what is happening. You see something's taking place and you are all silent. So you teach your child from a young age, if they see wrong, they say this is wrong. They see a woman not wearing hijab, they tell her you should wear hijab. They see someone not praying, they tell them you should pray. They see someone wanting to drink alcohol, they tell them not to drink alcohol. Not later when they get a job, they sit on a table and the boss comes in and puts a glass of wine or champagne or whatever some he chooses and sits down. The person says, oh, if I get up, I'll look like a terrorist. He already thinks you're a terrorist anyway, just, in case you didn't know. So people don't realize that. Pretty much that's it. You want proof of this? You think I'm just saying this and I'm spitting hate? No, it's the truth. Take a look at any time a crime is committed by a non-Muslim. He's always deranged or mental or wasn't held enough when he was a child or something like that. But when a Muslim commits a crime, it doesn't matter what it is. Do you remember the Washington sniper? The Mavro Muhammad case. They had a Muhammad in there somehow. Do you know that in the Washington sniper they all say was an act of terrorism and it wasn't? Do you know what the case was all about? This guy hated his wife and he wanted to kill her. But he come up, sometimes some people have plans the devil doesn't even think of. He said, what I'll do is I'll start killing people at random. So they say there's a sniper on the loose. And then I will kill my wife in the process. So then the MO of the killer is this guy's just killing random people. So he kills the first person. He has an 18-year-old boy doing all the shooting for him, and he's doing all the driving, or I think they're interchanging. He kills the first person, and what happens? He gets what happened to the farmers in Tasmania when they settled in Tasmania, who did Australian history. What happened to the farmers in Tasmania? When they put them down in Tasmania, they were, how now you go and hunt the pests in the land, you kill the rabbits and whatever is the farmers. Back then they were hunting indigenous people. They were killing the Aborigines in the land. That's what they were doing. And what happens? They got bloodlust. Because when you kill one person, it makes it normal. So you start killing another till they culled all the people. A genocide was committed in Tasmania, and the last left Aborigine from Tasmania, Benelong, what did they do to him? They sent him as a gift to Queen Victoria. They sent a human being as a gift to Queen Victoria, take him, and they killed off all the Aborigines in Tasmania. This is what happens. So this guy killed one person and said, you know what, this is good. I'm going to kill another. He forgot the reason he was there to start. He would have kept on killing. But when they got him, what did they say? He was a terrorist. So for you to sit there and think they're going to call you a terrorist, they're going to call you a terrorist no matter what you do. Even that man Monas, up till today they call him a terrorist, even though he was deranged. He was mentally not stable. He didn't even know what he was doing. He fell asleep. Who do you know takes hostages and falls asleep? He actually fell asleep during the whole raid. Had no idea what he was doing. And the Iranian government had told them, this guy's deranged, we want him, bring him back. They were told about this, but they didn't care, they left him. So for you to sit there and worry when you sit with your boss, if he's going to think I'm a terrorist or she's going to think I'm a terrorist if I don't shake her hand, you've got a lot of problems. You should be proud of who you are. You should be proud of being a Muslim. And this is what you're giving this child. You're giving him that pride of being a Muslim. Proud to have a religion that does not allow them to live like an animal and live with no morals whatsoever. Then he teaches the child ethics. First the usul, then the furu', then ethics. Then he says, وَاصْبِرْ عَلَى مَا أَصَابَكَ إِنَّ ذَلِكَ مِنْ عَزْمِ الْأُمُورِ. He says, be patient on anything that afflicts you. Whatever comes to you. إِنَّ ذَلِكَ مِنْ عَزْمِ الْأُمُورِ. When you think about it, that to be patient is the hardest thing. There's nothing more difficult than practicing patience. It's easy to punch someone in the face. Believe me, to not punch them is the hard thing. This is where courage is required. This is where courage is required. It's easy for someone to do something wrong. You know those people where someone takes their car park and then they go inside, then they come out and they key scratch their car. That's easy to do. Not to do it because you're upset with that person is where you need courage. To not take everything into your own hands. To be patient during afflictions. Because if you're not patient during afflictions, problems happen, you're not patient. You're going to have a long and hard life because your life is full of problems. Your life is filled from beginning to end with problems. And you don't know where the problems come from and how you're going to be tried. If you take a look at the primary examples of patience, you take a look at Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib salawatullah alayh, when Allah Azza wa Jal told him through his messenger that he had to be patient, that they will come if they don't accept to follow you, they will not only come and take you from your house, they will even attack your house. And he said, I'll be patient. They'll even attack Fatima alayha salam. And this was not only just Amir al-Mu'mineen's wife. This is the daughter of Rasulullah. This is Rasulullah's trust to this world. He's entrusted the world with Fatima. And Amir al-Mu'mineen, you're not talking, salawatullah alayhi, you're not talking about a man that can fight another man. You're talking about a man that says, لو تظاهرت العرب على قتلي لما وليت عنها. That if all the Arabs combined to come and kill me, this is not someone that is normal. He says, لما وليت عنها, I would not have left a single one of them. I would have killed them all. And there was proof of this. Bab Khaybar, if you look in Tariq, has anyone ever seen a portcullis in a fort? The portcullis, you know, the portcullis is that gate at the front of the fort that's made of solid timber and metal. And it requires 40 men to raise it. And the historians say Amir al-Mu'mineen with a hand through this door and it went behind him, and he actually mentions the distance that it flew. Amir al-Mu'mineen in the narration. He says, this was from my faith in Allah Azza wa Jal. To be able to do this, and then you're told to be patient. This is why Al-Ameli, rahmatullah alayh, the author of Al-Ghadir, he said, I never knew the courage of Ali in Badr or Uhud or Hunayn. I knew his courage the day they attacked his house. This is the courage. Where something that is unbearable, he had to accept it. Imam Abu Abdullah al-Hussein took his family to Karbala, and that was unbearable. That was something he could not handle, but because it was for Allah, he bared with it. He accepted this, and if it wasn't for this patience, they would not have endured what took place. They would have died there and then. But they were patient, and you need to teach your child patience from this very young age. Allah Azza wa Jal mentions this to us in these verses so we can save our family from the fire of hell. Save them from not only the fire of hell, save them from living a life of despair and being despondent in this world. See, many people up till today still ignore their children. They do not know what their children are doing and where their children are. They only scream out when their child overdoses and they tell you he died of a heart attack. This is what you see these days. The child ODs. The parents know. You know, sometimes when a child gets killed, and when I say a child, I'm not talking about a 5-year-old. I'm talking about sometimes the children of 30 or 40. A child that's been involved in criminal lifestyle his whole life. The parents were happy when the child was driving the nicest cars. They're happy when their child could afford the nicest home but never work a day in their life. They were happy all this time. When the child gets killed, they go, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. What the hell happened here? How did he get killed? How could this be possible? It becomes a tragedy for them. If their child goes to jail, what did they say? They say he was wrongfully accused. You know, and it's this racist justice system. That's why he's in jail. You know, and then you look at the guy's rap sheet. Remember the Scaffs? I used to work with the Bill Scaff's father and his uncle. And his uncle used to always complain. This is before he got done. I remember when I was 18, he used to complain about this kid. He'd say, this child is always in trouble. He said, my brother has had enough of him. He's driving him mad. This child did so much. The moment the child got arrested for the crime they were convicted with, okay, everyone said, oh, haram, what did they do? The thing is, they never looked at the history of this child. He had never been a law-abiding citizen. I'm talking not only the law of the land, which you have to follow, because if the law of the land is for your benefit, you have to follow it. And the law, the majority of the law in the world that you live in, is for your benefit. You know, when someone says to you, look, I don't believe we should get, one person says, I don't believe we should get fined for speeding. I said, why? He goes, there's no fining system in Islam. I said, so you're saying it's not good for them to stop us from speeding? Is it good or bad law, honestly? Of course, an awesome law. When you go overseas and you see people going through red lights, how do you feel? When you go overseas and you see people not driving in their own lanes, how do you feel? When you go to other countries and see people getting killed and no one's accountable because he has a wasta, how do you feel? When you live in a country, there's laws that are good for you. You should abide by these laws and be happy. These guys, not only were they breaking the laws of the land, they were breaking the laws of Allah. They broke the law of Allah Azza wa Jal. The parents actually said, oh, well, they were smoking drugs and then they were involved in a Roman orgy. That's what they were doing. In Islamic law, they'd be punished by this. What, do you think that they'd be congratulated and given a free trip to Hajj? That these people, whether you like it or not, were criminals that weren't raised in their parents, just started screaming after this point. Now I just want to, inshallah, we'll finish off the rest of this tomorrow night, but I just want to tell you something. If you do not take heed earlier with your children, they will destroy your life. What I'm saying by destroy, they will make you go crazy. You chase them. Sometimes you've raised your child right, and you've worked hard on your child. When they reach an age where they're out of your control, which is 21, this is when you've done enough. Because a man came up to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and he heard the verse, قُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ وَأَهْلِيكُمْ نَارًا, that save yourself and your family from the fire. And he said, Ya Rasulullah. He started to weep. He said, it's hard enough working on ourselves. How about our children? The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, حَسْبُكَ أَن تَأْمُرَهُمْ بِمَا تَأْمُرُ بِهِ نَفْسَكَ وَتَنْهَاهُمْ عَمَّا تَنْهَى عَنْهُ نَفْسَكَ. It's sufficient that all you do is enjoin them to do what you enjoin yourself. Call them to do what you do. And prevent them from doing what you don't do. And that's all. That's sufficient. That's all you need to do. I don't need to beat my child into a pulp. I just keep telling them this is haram. And don't reward him when he does something wrong. This is one of the biggest problems. Sometimes someone says, look, my child, I can't control him. And the child's got an iPhone 10, if that's come out yet, or whatever. The child's got the latest gadgets. The child's got everything. Honestly, just Google Veruca Salt. That's that kind of child, and they're given what they are. They're given what they want, and then later, the parent worries, how do I fix this child? We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to give us the coolness of the ayah, قُرَّةَ الْأَعْيُنِ فِي الْأَهْلِ وَالْمَالِ وَالْوَلَدِ. This is what we ask in our families, in our wives, in our wealth, and in our children, that Allah gives us that comfort. And we ask Allah Azza wa Jal that they are all followers of Ahlul Bayt alayhum as-salam, and they stay steadfast on their faith. ببركة الصلاة على محمد وآل محمد.